My name is Bill Fogarty, and I am the Postdoctoral Fellow in Poetics here at the Fox Center. And what I'm doing here this year is working on a book project. I'm specifically working on two chapters, the first chapter and the last chapter. And that book is called Local Tongues, The Politics of Speech in Poetry. And it's a book that examines the relationship between poetry and sociopolitical conditions and crises. And more specifically, it looks at the ways that poets employ different linguistic registers to respond to social and political encumbrances. The argument of the book is that when poets employ local speech into their work, that employment often, not always, but often has the capacity of reconciling what is thought to be a kind of fraught relationship between poetry and politics. It sort of works, this idea that I have is that poets employ this register, the local speech of the communities that they grew up in, as a way of bringing social and political concerns into their work without those concerns becoming sort of detrimental to their poem's aesthetic capacities. The poets that I study, they're 20th century poets. One is Seamus Heaney. I'm working on his archive here at the Rose Library. Another is Gwendolyn Brooks, American poet. Another, Tony Harrison, English poet. And finally, Lucille Clifton. That's the last chapter. The Rose Library also holds her archives. And these poets, these 20th century poets, they had very long careers. And during their careers, at very crucial moments, they began writing poems in which they start considering and examining, and in some cases worrying about, the relationship of themselves as artists and their commitments to their art, as well as their relationship to the social and political conditions that are happening in their immediate local worlds. And what I have found is often when they are sort of coming up against this kind of crisis, they employ into their poetic forms, they make their poetic forms out of the local speech that they grew up speaking in their own communities. And another thing that connects all of these poets, not just their long careers or the fact that they scrutinize in their own poems their poetry's relationship to sociopolitical circumstances, but their local languages differ in significant ways from standard institutionalized languages. So moving that language or creating traditional poetic forms or the free verse forms of poetry out of those conditions has a tension in it that has important sociopolitical ramifications and balances. It's really been wonderful, and I've been really happy that we had as much opportunity as we've had to share work with each other. It's been really helpful for me and productive for me to listen to the ways that other scholars, to listen to the vocabulary that they employ when they are analyzing their own materials. So to listen to a theologian and to read the work of a theologian who's examining her own materials and to see or to hear what kinds of words they're using to talk about their materials is really helpful for me, and you know, listening to the way someone, an art historian, talks about paintings and the lexicon that they use to describe and to analyze and to assess, listening to an historian talk about a set of documents and the language that they use to evaluate and examine has been very productive for my own work. And I find myself in our Fox lunches often jotting down little ideas when I hear someone talking about their own materials. That's been really wonderful. The whole setup too of devoting most of our time to our own research is really great because you know, it's like learning a second language when you're working with archives for the first time. You need to immerse yourself in it, and you need to have the time to explore, and you need to have the time to discover, and you need to not be so nervous or so sort of anxious about deadlines and getting things finished, because you have to let things sort of open up and lead you wherever they may lead you. And that's been really good. I mean, it helps you, when you have that kind of environment and you're doing research, it helps you not sort of hold so tightly sometimes to claims that you might have. It allows you to kind of open up and be a little bit looser with them and be willing to let whatever materials you're going to find problematize and complicate and challenge the claims that you have. And though that engagement with those challenges is just going to make your work more compelling and better. The humanities right now, there's a lot, for those of us who are in my position, postdoctoral, looking for jobs, looking for grants, trying to get publications, just coming out of finishing our PhDs, where we tend to sort of be bundles of anxieties and nerves, and it's very uncertain, the world of the humanities and the world of higher education employment. And it's been such a great experience to, not entirely, but to step out of that somewhat and to be supported here in a way that encourages us to focus on our own work and, you know, to use the resources and to take our time. And I don't know, it just has had this effect of reprioritizing things a little bit for me and reinvigorating my own interest in my own work and why it is I did this in the first place. Moved me away a little bit from so much worry and anxiety about where I'm gonna wind up or those kinds of things. So it's a great place to be. I was just saying too to Keith and Colette, at first I thought, oh, it's so fast, you know, it's just 9 months, and you know, you come in and you really have to hit the ground running, and you don't have time in the beginning to sort of, you know, kind of wade into your research. But that has actually been really good here too, because you're just forced to get work done because the time is limited, and there is a sense that this is a privilege to be here, and this is an opportunity now to meet that privilege and take advantage of it. And it's just been great.